Which is more dangerous to transport by road, 20 metric tons of steel or 20 metric tons of water? They weigh the same. The load on the wheels may be nearly the same. But if the steel cargo is properly secured, it moves with the truck. The liquid inside a tanker, however, never becomes a fully integrated part of the truck. It lags behind during braking, continues to accelerate after a steering maneuver, and sometimes pushes the multi-metric ton vehicle precisely at the moment when the driver is trying to regain control. From the outside, a tanker truck looks like an ordinary metal tank on wheels. It seems that its job is simple, to keep the liquid inside and prevent leaks. But keeping it sealed is only half the problem. The real challenge begins when the tank, along with the truck, starts moving. That's because the driver isn't just controlling the tractor and trailer. At the same time, he's trying to control dozens of metric tons of liquid, which has its own momentum, its own rhythm, and its own trajectory. And that is precisely why many tankers have partitions inside that are almost never visible from the outside. At first glance, their purpose seems obvious. They likely simply reinforce the long metal body so it doesn't deform under the weight of the cargo. This is partly true. The internal elements may help support the structure, but that doesn't explain the main point. The partitions are needed first and foremost to prevent the liquid from forming a single huge moving wave. Imagine a tanker truck traveling at a constant speed on a straight road. The liquid inside is moving at the same speed as the truck. Everything seems calm to the driver, but an obstacle appears ahead, and he hits the brakes. The brakes slow down the wheels. The wheels, through the suspension, slow down the frame. The frame pulls the tanker body backward. However, the liquid is not rigidly connected to the body. Due to inertia, it continues to move forward. In the first few moments, the tank is already slowing down, while its contents are still trying to maintain their previous speed. The liquid begins to rise up the front wall. The pressure on it increases. Then, the mass of the cargo strikes the front of the tanker and transfers this momentum to the entire vehicle. If there are 25 metric tons of liquid inside, even with moderate deceleration, the resulting longitudinal force can be comparable to the weight of many metric tons. The driver feels this as an extra jolt from behind. It's as if a heavy trailer had momentarily decided not to brake along with the tractor-trailer, but instead continued to push it toward the obstacle. But this is where the more dangerous part of the process begins. After hitting the front wall, the liquid doesn't come to a complete stop. It rolls back. Then it moves forward again. An oscillation occurs inside the long tank, a giant wave that travels from one end of the tank to the other several times. Therefore, the truck may jerk even after the main braking has ended. The driver pressed the pedal once, but the load continues to exert a series of delayed forces on the vehicle. If the road is straight and the braking is smooth, the vehicle's design usually handles it. But what happens if a turn is required at that moment? That's when the longitudinal wave becomes a rollover hazard. When the tanker turns, the tank changes direction, but the liquid, due to inertia, tends to continue moving along its previous trajectory. Relative to the tank, it shifts toward the outside of the turn. The free surface tilts, and part of the mass rises up the curved wall. And here it is important to understand the key point. The liquid does not simply move to the side, it simultaneously rises higher. The load's center of gravity shifts outward and upward. The outer wheels bear an increasingly heavy load, while the inner wheels begin to lose contact with the road. If the lateral force becomes strong enough, the inner wheels lose contact with the road. After that, it is almost impossible to return the tanker to a stable position. Regular cargo also creates a load during turns, but secured cargo remains in the same position relative to the vehicle body. A liquid is capable of shifting its center of gravity right in the middle of a maneuver. Moreover, it does so with a delay. The driver notices the danger and turns the steering wheel in the opposite direction. The tractor-trailer begins to level out, but the wave inside the tanker is still moving toward the original outer wall. A moment later, the direction of its movement changes, and the mass surges in the other direction. The result is a sort of pendulum, but instead of a small load on a suspension, there may be tens of thousands of liters of fuel, milk, water, or a chemical solution. The most unpleasant part is that the wave's maximum impact may not occur at the moment of the first steering input, but later, during the corrective maneuver. The driver feels as though the vehicle is already returning to its path, but it is precisely then that the liquid catches up with the maneuver and sharply increases the roll. And this brings us to a paradox that seems almost illogical. A partially filled tanker can sometimes be more dangerous than a full one. It seems that the heavier the load, the more dangerous the vehicle. Therefore, a half-empty tanker should be safer than a fully loaded one. It's lighter, puts less strain on the tires, and requires less braking force. When the tanker is stationary, this makes sense. But a tanker doesn't move in a stationary world. In a tank that is nearly full, there is relatively little free space. The liquid still exerts enormous forces, but it has less room to accelerate inside the tank and form a high wave. Most of the contents move almost in unison with the tank wall. In a partially filled tank, a significant void appears above the liquid. Now the cargo can move freely, rise up the walls, and gain speed relative to the tank. The mass has decreased, but the load has significantly more freedom of movement. Therefore, the danger is not determined solely by the number of metric tons. It depends on the fill level, the shape of the tank, the density and viscosity of the liquid, the vehicle's speed, the abruptness of braking, the turning radius, and even the sequence of steering movements. A half-empty tank isn't just a lighter version of a full tank. From a dynamic standpoint, it's an entirely different system. To limit fluid movement, engineers divide the tank's internal volume. It is important to distinguish between two solutions here. The first is sealed transverse partitions. These completely divide the tank into separate compartments. Liquid from one compartment cannot flow freely into another, so instead of a single long wave, several much smaller volumes are formed inside. The second solution is baffles. These are metal plates with holes or openings. They do not create completely sealed sections, but force the fluid to pass through restricted openings. The flow loses velocity, fragments, changes direction, and dissipates some of its energy. Imagine a long bathtub that has been suddenly pushed forward. The water will be able to build up speed along its entire length and hit the edge as a single mass. But if you divide the bathtub with several plates with small holes, the motion won't disappear. Instead, a single huge wave will turn into several short, less powerful streams. This is exactly what happens inside a tanker truck. Transverse baffles primarily reduce the forward and backward movement of the liquid during acceleration and deceleration. Some designs also incorporate longitudinal elements that limit the lateral movement of the cargo. The shorter the distance over which the liquid can accelerate freely, the less energy it has when it subsequently strikes the tank wall. However, the partitions cannot simply be solid metal walls installed arbitrarily inside the tank. The liquid must be able to flow between the sections of the tank during loading and unloading. It must be possible to service, clean, and inspect the inner surface. Openings must be positioned so that the flow is restricted but does not create hazardous pressure zones. The plates themselves must withstand repeated fluid impacts, vibration, and constant deformation of the tank body. Even the shape of the baffle matters. Round, oval, cross-shaped, and other designs are selected based on the tank's geometry and the properties of the product being transported. The internal baffles must slow the flow without interfering with the tank's normal operation. Therefore, each baffle represents a compromise between strength, safety, unloading speed, and maintainability. However, wave dampers do not turn the liquid into a solid load. They merely reduce the amplitude of the motion and the rate at which waves form. If the vehicle brakes or turns too abruptly, the load will still shift. Therefore, the tank's design is effective only when combined with proper driving techniques. The driver of such a truck must begin braking earlier, slow down before entering the turn, and avoid sudden corrective maneuvers. It is not a single smooth turn that is particularly dangerous, but rather a rapid maneuver, first in one direction and then in the other. At that moment, the truck's body changes direction faster than the fluid has time to settle. Even the electronic stability control system faces a difficult challenge here. Sensors detect the vehicle's acceleration, roll, and rotation, and then selectively apply the brakes to individual wheels. But inside the tanker, the cargo remains, and its position is constantly changing. The system can counteract the movement of the tanker's body, but it is unable to stop the wave instantly. That is precisely why safety begins even before you turn the steering wheel, with the choice of speed, fill level, and the configuration of the tanker itself. Now, the internal partitions no longer look like simple metal fittings. They transform a single long tank into a system of smaller compartments. They don't keep the liquid completely still because that's impossible, but they control how quickly and how far it can move. Barriers do not eliminate inertia. They prevent it from coalescing into a single, destructive force. This is the underlying logic behind the tanker truck. On the outside, the driver is steering a regular truck, but inside the metal body, there is always a second vehicle, an invisible mass that lags behind, sways, and tries to continue its previous motion. And the more space you give it, the more it can interfere with your steering. That is precisely why a half-full tanker is sometimes more dangerous than a full one. That is precisely why smooth driving is more important for it than sudden reactions. And that is precisely why a few invisible metal plates can be the difference between a routine turn and the moment when dozens of metric tons of liquid decide to send the truck off on its own path. Engineers cannot make a liquid ignore the laws of physics, but they can design a tank so that these laws do not work against the machine, but rather within precisely calculated limits. If you are curious to learn why the liquid inside a tanker can affect the movement of a multi-metric ton truck and how invisible barriers help keep the vehicle on the road, subscribe to the channel and give it a like. There are even more engineering stories to come, in which precise calculations, complex physics, and solutions capable of preventing disasters lie behind the vehicles we take for granted.